This week, President Donald Trump stunned the world by announcing the U.S. will no longer support Ukraine's bid to join NATO. The announcement, made from the Oval Office, sent shockwaves through Allied capitals and marked a dramatic break from decades of American foreign policy. For Ukraine, NATO membership was a symbol of hope and a deterrent against Russian aggression. Trump framed the move as a pragmatic step to end a costly war, arguing that NATO expansion only provoked Moscow and prolonged the conflict. This shift signals a willingness to accommodate Russian security concerns, something previous administrations refused to do. The timing is critical. After years of war and economic strain, Trump claims this is a necessary step to stop the bloodshed. He insists that realism must replace idealism, suggesting a total Ukrainian victory is unattainable without deeper U.S. involvement. For Ukraine, the decision feels like a betrayal. Its government has staked its future on Western support and NATO membership. The dream of joining the alliance is enshrined in Ukraine's constitution. To have it extinguished by its most powerful ally is a devastating blow. Ukraine now faces a steeper, more uncertain road, forced to navigate a new reality where its staunchest supporter has changed the rules. The credibility of American security commitments worldwide is suddenly in question. The map of Ukraine in late 2025 is a testament to years of brutal warfare. Russia's grip on Crimea is tighter than ever, transforming it into a military fortress and integrating it fully into Russia. Beyond Crimea, Russian forces occupy large parts of Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, territories seized since 2014 and 2022. These regions have been reshaped to serve Moscow's interests, with millions displaced and cities devastated. Control over the southern coast has crippled Ukraine's maritime trade and energy security. The front lines are now hardened trenches and minefields, making any breakthrough nearly impossible. Moscow insists these lands are now Russian, demanding the world accept this new reality as the basis for peace. The diplomatic chess game is being played on a battlefield defined by tanks and artillery, not negotiation. President Trump's proposal now asks Ukraine and the world to recognize these de facto borders in the name of peace. President Trump has unveiled a deal of the century to end the war. The core bargain: Ukraine gets a ceasefire but must renounce NATO ambitions and recognize Russian sovereignty over Crimea. The White House calls this a pragmatic peace for territory formula, arguing it's the only way to stop the killing. Critics warn it rewards aggression and undermines the post-War II order that forbids changing borders by force. European allies, especially in the East, fear this will embolden Russia and threaten their own security. The deal's ambiguity on other occupied regions, Donbass, Zaporizhia, Kherson, raises further alarm. Some see it as a first step toward legitimizing all of Russia's territorial gains. For Ukraine, the proposal introduces new uncertainty and fear rather than clarity or peace. The administration insists this is tough leadership. Opponents call it appeasement. The fate of millions and the future of European security hang in the balance. The world is left to debate whether this is a path to peace or a dangerous precedent. Ukraine faces impossible choices under the shadow of this blueprint. President Zelensky responded swiftly and unequivocally, rejecting Trump's proposal on national television. He declared Ukraine would not trade its territory or sovereignty for a mirage of peace. The Ukrainian constitution mandates pursuit of NATO and EU membership and forbids ceding territory, making compromise nearly impossible. After years of sacrifice, the public is united. Surrender is unthinkable. Any leader agreeing to such terms would be seen as a traitor, risking political collapse. The military believes the war is not lost. Accepting a deal now would freeze the conflict at a disadvantage. For soldiers, negotiating away their sacrifices is a betrayal. Ukraine's resolve is clear. The fight for full liberation continues. In response to Trump's announcement, European leaders rushed to Washington for an emergency summit. The goal: manage the fallout and reaffirm support for Ukraine, even as the U.S. shifts its stance. The summit produced no peace deal. Instead, focus shifted to long-term aid and security guarantees. The final communiqué pledged unwavering support for Ukraine, but notably omitted NATO membership. New multi-year aid packages and military assistance were promised, but without the ironclad protection of NATO's Article 5. These guarantees aim to make Ukraine a formidable defender, but stop short of direct Western intervention. The summit exposed deep rifts within the Western alliance over how to handle Russia. Ukraine is left armed for continued war, but diplomatically isolated in its quest for full victory. The path to lasting peace remains elusive. The territories under Russian control are Ukraine's economic and strategic lifeblood. Crimea's loss cripples Ukraine's navy and hands Russia dominance over the Black Sea, blocking vital exports. The Donbas, once Ukraine's industrial engine, is rich in coal and heavy industry. Abandoning it means losing a cornerstone of the economy. Kherson and Zaporizhia are agricultural heartlands and energy hubs. Zaporizhia's nuclear plant once supplied a fifth of Ukraine's electricity. Russian control over these regions devastates Ukraine's food security, exports, and energy independence. Millions of Ukrainians live in these occupied territories. Ceding them means abandoning citizens to Russian rule and repression. The moral cost is immense. Promises to liberate all Ukrainians would be broken. The price of concession is permanent weakness and vulnerability. For Kyiv, the loss is not just land, but the future of the nation itself. The stakes could not be higher. Ukraine faces an agonizing choice: accept a bitter compromise or continue a costly war. Compromise means surrendering territory and abandoning NATO ambitions, but could end the bloodshed and allow rebuilding. It's the path of survival, but at the cost of sovereignty and national pride. Continuing the fight upholds independence and hope for full victory, but guarantees more sacrifice and uncertainty. Western support is now less certain, and Russia's demands have only grown. Putin now insists on recognition of all occupied regions. Moscow's hardline stance makes compromise even less palatable, pushing Kyiv further from the negotiating table. Ukraine is trapped between a devastating peace and a devastating war. The decision rests with the Ukrainian people and their leaders, not Washington, Brussels, or Moscow. They must weigh the unbearable cost of continued conflict against the humiliation of dictated peace. The world watches as Ukraine fights for its land, its people, and its soul. The stakes are existential and the outcome remains uncertain. Ukraine's future hangs in the balance.